Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our special foundation meeting. I'm Ingrid Neach, Foundation Coordinator for Zone 28, and along with our foundation team, I'm delighted to welcome members of our governor teams, members of our district Rotary Foundation chairs, and also district leaders, all who are interested in our topic tonight, Focus on Polio. Zone 28 is fortunate to have 3 End Polio Now coordinators. Neil Macbeth is the team lead, and he looks after our central districts. Stella Roy looks after our eastern districts of our zone, and Linda Robertson serves the western districts. All 3 keep up to date on polio matters, but some of you know that they also fulfill other roles in our zone. Those of you who were in Toronto recently will know that Stella was our registrar, and both Stella and Linda were part of the training sessions. And Neil is off to Melbourne very soon because he's going to be helping with the Melbourne Convention. We are very honored tonight to have international polio experts with us, and each one will be introduced individually. But I'd like to say a special thank you to past Rotary International President John Germ and past Trustee Brenda Cressey for being with us tonight. They are stepping in for Mike McGovern. Unfortunately, Mike has had a recent bereavement in his family and is unable to be with us. We have sent condolences to Mike and to his family, and I certainly will keep him in our thoughts and prayers. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to the presentations tonight and our discussions about our topic, Focus on Polio. Neil is going to make some introductory comments, and then we'll introduce our first presenter. Over to you, Neil.
As most of you know, World Polio Day is on Monday, October 24th. And we would like you to encourage the clubs in your district to plan something during World Polio Day or the week around World Polio Day. There's lots of things that you can do, such as planning social media information through some of the different items like Facebook, etc. And some of the clubs, you might be encouraged to do a fundraiser, and we have lots of ideas for fundraisers. Each of you were sent a link to the World Polio Day toolbox, which we hope you forwarded on to your clubs, and we'd encourage your clubs to register their events so we know what they're doing. If you have questions about World Polio Day and you need some help, please reach out to either Stella, Linda, or myself in the coming days so that we can help get the information you might need. At this point in time, I would like to introduce our first guest speaker. John Germ is a retired board chair and CEO of Campbell and Associates Incorporated. He joined this company as an engineer in 1965 after 4 years in the Air Force. He serves on many local committees and boards, and he's also the founder and treasurer of the Chattanooga State College Foundation and the Tennessee JC Foundation. John joined Rotary in 1976, and he has served Rotary as president in 2016-17. He was the foundation chair in 21-22. He's been an aide to both the president and the foundation trustee chair, and he's currently the chair of Rotary's $200 million challenge and the Countdown to History Committee and other numerous committees. John has been recognized by Rotary with the Service Above Self Award and by the Foundation for the Citation of Meritorious Service and the Distinguished Service Award, and also the Polio Pioneer Award. He and his wife, Judy, are foundation benefactors and members of the Arch Clump Society. And I know they're very proud of their 4 children and 6 grandchildren and the 1 great-grandson. So, John, take it away.
Thanks much, Neil. It's good to be here, even under the circumstances that we find ourselves with Mike's uncle and godfather having passed away and the services going on now. It's good to see Bob Scott here. He should be doing this presentation because he knows more about this than most of us do. having served several years as the IPPC chair at the same time that he took on the responsibilities of serving as the trustee chair. So, Bob, good to see you, and good to see all of our fellow Rotarians here tonight. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a little bit of time, though, to say thank you for your participation in 2021 and 22. You know, we had an ambitious goal of 410 million. Because of your contributions and your help, we made 434.4 million. I could tell you also that we were able to give out 478 district grants with a value of about $28.8 million. We gave out 1,197 global grants with $20 million of World Fund, but the total value of that is $76.9 million. So thank you very much for that. We gave out 7.9 million of disaster relief grants, not including the Ukraine. And with Ukraine, we raised 15.3 million, and we have given out 315 grants so far, totaling $10,153,000. None of that would have been possible if it hadn't been for each of you and the hard work that you've done to get people involved in Rotary, not only locally, but globally, and also especially into the polio campaign. So let's talk a little bit about the polio campaign. And I think I've got some slides I sent over. I don't know if they got uploaded or not. We'll try and see. If they didn't, we'll just skip over them. So let's go to the next slide. And on this one, you can see that we have reduced the number of polio cases since 1985 from 350,000. And this slide is wrong. It says 29 cases now. We have 2 cases in Afghanistan. We have 2 additional cases come up in Pakistan. So they now have 20 cases. And then we have 7 cases in Mozambique. But remember that while we have reduced the number of cases, and there's over 95% of the people living now in a children under 5 living in a polio-free world, there's still 400 million children that we have to reach every year. So just think about that, and in more than 30 countries that we have to reach. Be proud of the fact that since this campaign started in 1985, 88, really, $2.5 billion has been spent by Rotarians. That includes the $50 million that we are currently raising per year and the $100 million that we get from the Gates Foundation if we do that. And we have done it since we entered into that. And I'll tell you, we now have the contract to go through 2026, which is the same time frame that GPEI states that we should have no polio cases of either the wild or the vaccine-derived virus by December 31st of 2023. And then hopefully, and I believe we will make the world polio free by December 31st of 2026. A new vaccine is shown here, has been developed. It's called the novel oral polio vaccine type 2. And it has really improved the situation in Africa, where we have the largest number of vaccine-derived cases. And this is really helping slow down the expulsion of that vaccine out of a human body, and is really helping us a great deal on that. So we've got a lot of countries now that have signed contracts with WHO that says that they will monitor this and that they will provide those doses properly. Next slide, please. You can see here the cases that we have had and what has happened there. And look at the peak of 2019. Then we had, I'll remind you though, that in India, which is now totally polio free, that it had a almost free for 3 years, and then had it more discovered vaccines viruses there, had to start over. Nigeria also had the same situation, but now both of those are declared polio free, as is all of Africa. Next slide, please. We know that the polio virus can rapidly spread. We have said for years that the polio virus is just a plane ride away. Here's a case where in Malawi, it was detected in 2021. That same virus went to Mozambique, which was in 2022, and they have 7 cases. But next slide, please. It goes to say that we also have the recent thing that has been said, started in Jerusalem with a case there, a polio vaccine derived case there. The same genetics of the virus was in UK, and the same genetic of that virus is in the United States, in New York, in Rockland County. And they have now discovered that it's in about the sewage in about 4 other counties. Only one person, and that's in Rockland County, has polio. It's a 20-year-old person that was previously not vaccinated. And I can tell you that one of the lowest vaccination rates in the United States of America happens to be in Rockland County in New York. So hopefully with the work that is being done there by the health department, by the state of New York, and also the Rotary contacts there, that is being reduced and being controlled. So next slide, please. Sometimes people want to know, where are you spending my money? You've asked me to contribute money by $1,500 per club. You've asked us to give 20% of our DDF. You've asked us to get $50 million. So where are we? Well, if you see in the green slot there that we have about 12% of the money that we are spending on vaccine. We just recently approved $50 million going to WHO and to UNICEF. And under this funding that we just approved, that the trustees are discussing now, there is no vaccine there that we are purchasing. Detecting the disease, which is the sampling of the sewage works and everything, about 9% of the money. Raising awareness, letting people know what's happening, letting them know that we need to get them to get vaccinated, and is everything about 36%. But the largest part of that money is getting vaccine to the children. We were told just this past week that in Afghanistan, for example, the workers there, which are mostly females, are being paid $7 per day. The supervisors are getting up to $9 per day. And the same thing is true in Pakistan. But let's talk about where were we at last year and where did we get to and how did we get there? Because I think that's interesting. Then we'll talk about some individual participation. So next slide, please. Next one. Last year, you can see that we had $32.6 million of cash contributions. We had DDF transfers of $7 million, which is down $700,000 from the previous year. And you'll see that the World Fund match to the DDF is $3.5 million, because in order to fund all of our global grants, we cut the participation from the World Fund from $1 match to 50 cents on the dollar match. But then we had a World Fund transfer of $6.8 million, which is money that was there because we had raised more money than we had needed in previous years. We also had grants left over, money for grants, which was budgeted but was not had to be spent because we were able to meet all the grant requirements. So that gave us the 50.1. We have notified the Gates Foundation of that 50.1 million, and they will wire transfer to us in January a total of $100 million. We will then allocate that money 3 times during the year, 50 million, which we just spent our money, Another 50 million, next 50 million June will be that of the Gates money, and then we will do another one in January. So let's see how we are doing though with individual participation. So next slide. On this slide, I think, well, this is club giving, so we'll talk about clubs first. If you'll notice that of all the clubs in the United States, and there's 520 clubs right now around the world. And all these clubs, we only had a little over 20,000 of those clubs that are giving 20,478 that are given to the polio campaign. That's 57.2%. Now, I can tell you that in zone 32 or region 39, you had 62.53% of the clubs that participated. So congratulations, you're well above the average. You also, in zone 35, you had 81.9%. So congratulations to zone 28 and region 35. You're certainly leading the pack as far as that's concerned. Look at the clubs that are giving over, that are giving $1,500 out of the all the clubs that we have. We only have a total of 5,050 that are giving the $1,500. And if you look at all the participating districts, there's only 27 out of the 34 districts that are participating by giving any DDF. So we've got to do a better job of reaching out and explaining, especially to our younger members who probably can't spell polio, but let alone know that we've got to have their help and we've got to increase this participation. So let's go to the next slide. This is individual participation. You can see that in individual participation that we had 149,626 individual contributors. Of those, 139,800 of those are Rotarians. The others are people that look at World Polio Day, look at other functions, participating in bake sales, bike rides, and so forth that are not Rotarians in order to help us do this. The sad part is it's only 12% of our 1.2 million Rotarians that are contributing anything. If you look at the total giving per Rotarian in 1819, it was 29.96. It's down to 28.11. We have got to increase our giving from the individual Rotarians if we're going to be successful this year and in the following years through our 6-year contract with the Gates Foundation in order to get this. So let's go to the next slide. And major donors, you'll see that major donors are at $7.7 million. We do have some great major donors. In 2021, we had Mrs. Berla, who has been given $1 million a year for polio eradication for 15 years in a row now. Tommy Bagwell from Georgia is giving $1 million since 2016 for the polio campaign. And in that year also, we had the Church of Latter-day Saints, Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, that gave $1 million. So that was 3 million out of the 7. So you can see that we have decreased in our major givers. So we need to identify more people that have that capability of giving. In 21-22, we had 5.766 million, and Mrs. Berla and Tommy Bagwell are the two that are in there at $1 million or more. Major gifts is anything over $10,000 and over. If you look at our total DDF giving, you will see that our total DDF this past year was 6.9 million compared to 7.6 the year before. And you see it has gone down every year. Obviously, we have the pandemic. We have the Ukraine situation. And right now, most of all, we have the economy. So people are holding on to their money more, and we can certainly understand that. if you look at the number of districts that gave any money from their DDF, was 349 out of the 520 at 67%. And your total DDF is much higher than that. In zone 32, you have 11 out of 22 that are giving 20%, which is a decrease of one district from the year before. And in zone 28, you have 11 of 21, which is, and the year before that, it was 12 out of 21. So I thank you for that, but there is room for improvement. And the average is 36.2%. So you're certainly higher than the average. So next slide, please. As you know, we have the International Polio Plus Committee, and we are recommended, the trustees just recommended some policy changes to include the End Polio Now coordinators as a regional position. So that I think that will pass there. And the End Polio Now coordinators will be attending the Global Philanthropy Seminar in Evanston of March of 2023. So World Polio Day. You know, World Polio Day is very important. It gives us the opportunity to emphasize the work that Rotary is doing. It also gives us the opportunity to raise money by various events, either the Purple Pinky Donut, the bike rides, and other things. So, Neil, that concludes what I was prepared to talk about. I know that Brenda is going to talk about some strategies, so I will not talk about those. So I'll be happy to answer any questions now or later. But again, let me sincerely thank the clubs, the districts, and the leadership of Zone 32 for the great work that you have done, and also in Zone 28 for the fantastic work with the $2.5 million contributions in cash and DDF. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. The information that you've given us is very important. I'm sure we will have some questions that will come up, but we want to try and stay to our timeline. So I would ask people that have questions to put them in the chat. We'll monitor the chat. And after our next speaker is finished, we will try to get all of those questions answered for you. So at this time, I would ask Liz if she would play the video before we introduce Brenda.
Greetings, my Rotary family. When the history of polio eradication is written, Rotary will take a leading role in this massive, critical global effort. But even among heroes, there are greater heroes, and that's you, members of the Polio Plus Society. You have been steadfast advocates for the children of the world and the people who have devoted the most resources, time, and attention to this effort. No words of thank you will ever suffice. The world's focus has returned to polio once more. People are scared. They're worried about the health and safety of their children. They wonder if their community is next. You know that if the polio virus exists anywhere, it threatens children everywhere. That's why you've taken up this fight for so long and with such vigor. Now, we have the world's attention, and this gives us a unique chance to bring everything we have to this effort and eradicate polio once and for all. I've been on the ground in Pakistan and have talked to the brave people, mostly women, putting in the hard work to vaccinate every remaining child. We have a strategy that's working, but it's demanding resources like nothing we've done before. It's critical that once more we raise $50 million to trigger the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation 2-to-1 match. Together, we can finish the job and give this amazing gift to the children of the world. Thank you for your amazing continuing generosity and for your dedication.
So I'm Stella Roy, and I'm the polio coordinator for 28 East. And it is my true honor and pleasure to introduce you to Brenda Cressey. I first met Brenda in Evanston when I was just starting my polio career as a polio coordinator. And I was talking to her and we had a lovely conversation. And then later on, she gave me this beautiful scarf. She is such a generous, kind person and makes everybody she speaks to feel very special. So Brenda is a past Rotary International trustee of the foundation, but also she was the chair of the Rotary Foundation. And I believe that she was the first female chair, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, of our Rotary Foundation. She has been an endowment and major gift advisor. She has had multiple roles. She is an Arch Clump Society member. And I have her from District 5140 from the 5140 from Rotary Club of Paso Robles, but I believe that you've moved since I got that information. So I'm going to stop talking and let Brenda take it on, and please feel free to add a little bit about yourself for us to get to know you better. And I'm so proud to be on this call with you. Thank you, Brenda.
Oh, thank you, Stella, and good evening, everyone. It's just really wonderful to be here, and I will echo what John said earlier. We're so sorry that Mike couldn't be here with you tonight, but John's a pretty good stand-in, I think. He's all right. And then we always have Bob Scott to correct anything if he said anything incorrectly. But it is a pleasure to be here tonight, and especially following Jennifer's video on the Polio Plus Society. Thank you for showing that tonight. I'm very excited about what I'm personally calling a refresh of the Polio Plus Society. But before I go there, I wanted to also share that I really appreciated John starting out with the highlights of how far we've come, all of those wonderful things that we can be so proud of with our efforts to eradicate polio. I think these messages are just as important as, you know, counting the cases and looking at the cases that are coming in weekly. The highlights are very important. So please keep reminding everyone how far we've come. And sure, we have a little ways to go. We have some funding gaps that need to be remedied. And so we have some individuals who thought, you know, maybe we should take the Polio Plus Society globally. And that is the effort that we're undertaking right now. I was so pleased this last week to be at the Trustee Fund Development Committee meeting in Evanston with John. And we talked about how important it is to fill that funding gap and to look at ways and strategies that we could bring the level of giving up to eradicate polio. We have really, when you think about it, we have so few people around the world who are supporting our #1 priority. Remember, this is our #1 priority, and a lot of people don't understand that. I'm going to take you back to when I first joined Rotary for just a moment, and then I'll talk about the society. When I joined Rotary, it was because someone, my mentor, told me that we were about to take on polio eradication throughout the world. That was in 1989. It brought me right back to when I was a little girl. I was 5 years old, and I had a very close friend who passed away from polio. To be honest, I never even thought about polio that much throughout the years. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't have Rotary then. But once I did have Rotary, I realized that we were in a place that we could prevent other children from contracting polio. And so it was that day, way back in 1989, if you can imagine, that I decided to really support and do what I could to help Rotary finish the job. Here we are so many years later, and we're still fighting. We're still doing it. Another little story along the way was when I had a past governor at the time that I became governor, who put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I know you want to go on a National Immunization Day, but not everyone can. And he knew that I had some health issues and I couldn't travel internationally to do that sort of thing. And this is what he told me. He said, we need people who go on National Immunization Days, but we also need people to tell the story, and we need people to help raise the funds. And so that day he gave me my job, and I've been trying to do it ever since. Now I'll fast forward the year after I was governor. During my year as governor, we had Polio Plus Partners projects way back then, and we could support a project, may it be vaccine or equipment or anything like that. We don't do those types of projects anymore, but as John said, we do many, many other projects. But at that time, I went around to all the members in my district and I said, all right, I need you to bring in one new member every month, and I need you to consider giving $25 to Polio Plus this year. In the end, they raised over $365,000 for this project that we had no idea what it would be, because we didn't know how much money we were going to raise. So again, that next year, after my governor year, I received an email from Dr. Otto Estelle. I'm not sure that everyone knows him, but I know that John and Bob know him very well. He was a strong proponent of polio, ending polio. He was in Pakistan, as it turns out, working with the World Health Organization for 3 months, and he had just identified a child the day before who had, it looked like he had the polio paralysis setting in. But he didn't have a sequencer to figure out where the virus came from. So the following day, he got this crate in his office, he opened it up, and there was a sequencer. He couldn't believe it. He would be able to identify where this virus came from. He not only was pleased to have the sequencer, but when he lifted it out of the box and started setting it up, on the back, it said, this was donated by Rotary District 5240, my former district, with this Polio Plus project. He could not believe the timing. He could not believe that this happened. And folks, this is the miracle of Rotary, right there. So he had this equipment because of all the members in our district who contributed that year. And I wanted to share that because sometimes we don't really know what our $25 or our $100 really goes to. It goes to Polio Plus. John was telling us that we have these magnificent women going out and giving those drops all the time for $7 a day. And what a small price to pay for someone to really put their lives in danger sometimes to go out there. We really need to start sharing the real stories of what our number one focus is, to eradicate polio. We will get there. We're tenacious. We're going to do it. And with people like John Germ and everyone else, everyone on this call, we will get there. So I'm going to talk about a couple of strategies. And one of them, of course, you could consider World Polio Day a strategy, couldn't you? I mean, there's so much that we can do to raise awareness in our communities and within our clubs. We have lots of new members. So please encourage your clubs to participate in World Polio Day. Another thing that our district is doing this year is we set up a race for Rotary for polio, to end polio now. And we're raising quite a bit of money. We're also setting a year-long goal of $100,000. And so we're going to have things going on all year long to raise money and raise awareness for polio, not just World Polio Day. We're just extending it through the whole year. And our assistant governors are helping us share that message. Another thing that a lot of us don't even think about is that members could actually make a gift through their estate planning. And if the level is high enough, they can actually say that if polio is eradicated when, unfortunately, they pass away, they could say that money could go to the annual fund, world fund, whatever it is that they want. So think about that. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I'll be happy to answer them offline because it would take too long. And then the last thing, of course, is what I'm here for, and that is the Polio Plus Society. I received a call from John Germ and Robert Hall, who asked me if I would consider leading up a global effort to encourage all districts to join the Polio Plus Society. We know that we have a lot of districts who have the society. They've had it for quite a while. Some of them will admit that it's a little bit stagnant and they needed to, just do something different and market it. They needed tools. They needed a toolkit. And so when I started looking at the things that we needed to make this effort successful, I realized that we needed, number one, we needed some reports, and we needed them badly, and we needed them to be enhanced. And I was so pleased when I called Eric Schmeling. He is the philanthropic executive director, I guess. And he said, well, this is good timing because I have some IT people who can work on this. And already within 3 weeks, we have IT working on enhancing a report that's called the Contribution Detail Report. And more people will have access to this report, and it actually shows who the donor is, how much they made, to which fund, if it's polio or annual fund or endowment or other, and different levels of leaders within each district will have access to this report. I do want to caution everyone, like every single report that we have to be very careful. This is information that should not be shared and only used for the purpose that it is intended for. I see this report used as cultivation. I see it used as tracking to see if people are already giving to polio and at what level and how. It will show whether it's Rotary Direct, online giving, or a check. So you could actually look at this report once it's available and call Mary Jane and say, Mary Jane, I have noticed that you have been giving $100 a month on Rotary Direct. And I personally want to thank you and invite you to join the Polio Plus Society. Now, how fun is that? We finally have a way of identifying those people who are really supporting the Polio Plus Society. I'm going to go back to my district because it just coincided with the call that I received from John and Robert Hall. I think John Germ and Robert Hall, let me say that. And it just so happened that we just did a big refresh of the Polio Plus Society in my own district. And I had a chance to look at this report. Unbeknownst to me, this report's been kind of hanging around. I think I was only able to get it because I'm a past chair, I'm not sure. But I looked at it and I realized that 3 people in our district were already giving at $1,000 level to polio. We had a good amount, at least a handful, giving $250 a year. And did I say 1,000 a month? It's 1,000 a year. And so I realized that we should be looking at levels. And so that's how we presented it to the membership. We presented that they could join at the bronze, gold, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum levels. So 100, 250, 500, and 1,000. Do you want to know, in the first week, we had 4 people sign up to do the $1,000, and we had 3 people have already signed up at the 250. So I think that is something to be considered. So when I presented the idea of the global initiative to the Fund Development Committee, they were all in favor of it. And now what happens? It goes to the trustees for their decision. And we presented it in a way that you'll probably scratch your head and say, why? And so I'll share why. This is going to be delivered to all the districts around the world. And we had to be very sensitive to different monetary efforts and all of those things. I lost the words I wanted to say, but we had to be very sensitive to levels. We had to be sensitive to whether one district could do 100, ask for 100 to join the society. Maybe some districts, let's say in Africa, their criteria would be much lower, maybe $25 to join the society. I think it's really important that we look at this as a grassroots level, that it's coming from the districts and encouraging in their own way their members to support polio. We will have lots of items in our toolbox. If you don't have a Polio Plus Society, we'll have things like the reports, how to read them, how to use them, best practices on how to get people to join. We'll have sample certificates and places where you can buy pins. Just this week, I found out that in India, they have something called the Polio Plus Society Fellow, which is equal to a $1,000 gift. So I think it's going to be fun. I think that districts will really look at this in a new way. Maybe if they've been asking for the $100 until polio is eradicated, they'll continue. Maybe they want to consider the levels, maybe just 1 or 2 levels. Who knows? It's all up to you. But we do have a new email that you can reach out to us. It's Rotary Polio Plus Society @gmail.com. Very easy. I'll put it in the chat in a minute, but it's Rotary Polio Plus Society @gmail.com. Very simple. And we hope to really unveil this whole concept no later than January 1st. But I invite each of you, if you don't have a Polio Plus Society, contact me and I'll be happy to share any information that I'm working on right now. And it's just going to be wonderful. Can I just have a show of hands here tonight? Who has the society in place? Wow, it looks like everyone, Stella. I think so. That's wonderful.
I
So
think we have them, but I think they need some of us need some help to tool them.
Okay, we'll get that help and call it a refresh. You don't have to restart the whole thing, just a new message and just have fun with it. Recognize these people at an event, take some pictures, post it, and call them your polio champions, call them your polio ambassadors, whatever you like. But the fact of the matter is we need to have more people supporting polio eradication, plain and simple. So that's all I have for you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can write to me on that email. I'll be happy to get back to you on that. And just a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Oh, Brenda, thank you so much. That was so nice to hear from you. So I'm going to hand back to Neil now, and I think we have some time now for questions. And so Neil, it's up to you whether you want people to raise their hand or put them in chat. What would you prefer? I'll leave it with you. Thank you, Brenda. That was fabulous.
Thank you.
I think because we have some time, you could put your questions in chat. But if we go back to the full screen, Liz, then we can see when hands are raised if you do have a question, and we'll go from there. There are a couple of things that I want to point out. One came into the chat from District 5040. They started the Polio Plus Society this past year, and they've had 12% of the district sign up in the first year. And so I would suggest setting a goal of doubling in that during the second year. I know that several of the districts that I support have all started Polio Plus societies in the central part of Zone 28. And at least 2 of those are already at somewhere between 10 and 15% of their members signed up. So we do have our work cut out for us to try and encourage more people. Are there any questions for either John or for Brenda? Stella, I see your hand up, so.
I have a question for John. I'm a little bit curious about the Pakistan. So I know we've had quite a few cases this year in Pakistan, but did I understand that they're more local maybe, or that it's not quite so widespread? Am I wrong on that? Or?
Yeah, basically they're in 1 or 2 provinces there, so it is more local there. And obviously the floods are not helping us a whole lot. But yes, there is more local.
Okay, that's good. I hope that was the case. Thank you.
You know, while people are thinking and looking for ways to raise money, contact your district governors. Each district governor was given a signed painting that was done by Devin Jones, which is Jennifer's brother. And they were told they could not keep that painting. They had to auction it off for polio. And Jennifer last week was in Palm Springs. Brenda, I don't know if you know this or not, but she was there. And she auctioned off one of those signed paintings. 2 people went together to buy it, and they paid $25,000 for a painting. So now you take that and you put that with the Gates money, it ends up being $75,000. It's no one the DDF used, but that's one that was given to them at the IA. And so, strangely enough, I've been on several calls to district meetings, and only 1 or 2 of them are talking about it. So I don't know what they're waiting on, but
John,
that's an idea for you.
it's interesting you bring that up because we just learned about this. We, meaning my foundation, my district foundation chair, and I am the fund development chair here in my district in Maine, by the way, Stella. I'm in the Ogunquit Rotary Club in Maine now. But we found out, and we have a foundation event coming up on the 4th of November. And my foundation chair had it framed, and we're going to display it at the foundation event because that's a celebration of all of our donors and our doers, those who serve Rotary through projects. And we're just going to let everyone know that it's going on a silent auction until February 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're hoping to we'll raise more than that, John.
I know you will.
All right, thank you both. Carol, I see your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Neil. John, further to Stella's question, I also heard that the wastewater testing that's being done in Pakistan is showing negative results in all but those 2 provinces.
That's correct. And the other thing that's helping over there is that they have a lot of water projects within Pakistan. A lot used to be with Coca-Cola's help, but now they're not helping as much. But these water filtration plants are really helping too, because people are getting clean, safe water now too. So that helps too. But remember, Pakistan went 15 months without having a case, and then it popped back up. So.
And John, can you talk about wastewater positive samples in other areas that might be a surprise to people?
Well, obviously, the one in London was a surprise. The one in New York was certainly a surprise. But Africa has not had any wastewater samples that have proved positive. So right now they're in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, mostly in Pakistan.
John, I was very interested to hear your prediction of 2023 and then 2026. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, Igor, that's not my prediction alone. The Polio Oversight Board of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which consists of all of our partners, sent out a strategic plan. And they have adopted that strategic plan. Rotary has a representative, Mike McGovern's actually on the POB. Several of us serve on other committees. You might be interested to know, like, it costs us about $1 billion per year in order to do this. So Rotary's contribution is greatly important, but that is the strategic plan. The strategic plan says we will have no wild polio virus cases, no vaccine-derived cases by December the 31st. And the reason I say December 31st is because it is by 2023. And, you know, Rotary is on a different year than what WHO and UNICEF and everything is. So that's why I said December 31st, which is what the plan is. And then we would have 3 years because you have to go at least 3 years without any cases before the epidemiologist will say that that polio is gone. So
okay, thank you.
that is the strategic plan that everybody is working to.
All right, great.
Stella had her hands up.
Yeah, John, can I ask, can you describe a little bit better the difference between vaccine-derived polio and wild polio virus? I'm not sure that everybody is.
Well, Bob Scott, you still on?
Oh yeah, where's Bob?
I'm here.
Would you answer that question as a doctor?
You know, the increase in vaccine-derived cases is, in a sense, and I've said this publicly several times, due to a failure. You see, they arose mostly in Africa, as you know. What happened was that programs were set for the children to be vaccinated, all of the children to be vaccinated with type 2 vaccine. Well, unfortunately, some of the rounds were less than perfect, and some of the kids were missed, especially in Nigeria. And what happened was the kids that got it had a live virus in them, attenuated virus, albeit, and that virus, of course, was passed through the system into the water system, and the other kids were playing around in the water system, swimming pools and dirty pools at that. And they picked up the attenuated virus that these other kids had passed. Now, not every kid who did that got polio or apparently any paralysis. What we believe is that the passage has to be about 3 times. If a third susceptible child picks up this virus, it has then gone under enough of variation to produce a virus that will give symptoms of polio. Therefore, we have vaccine-derived polio, not wild, vaccine-derived. I hope that clarifies. It's the best way I have of trying to explain it.
Thank you, Bob. Nevis, I see your hand up.
Quick question on that particular topic. How do we address and how do we explain that to the clubs, what this polio-derived vaccine means for us in eradicating polio, like in New York and London?
Well, I think you have to explain that, number one, until all the viruses are eliminated, polio's anywhere. And yes, it is difficult to explain the vaccine derived, as Bob and I've tried to do, that it's just hard to explain that it has to go through your body into the sewage system, and then somebody that was not vaccinated happens to come in contact with it. So Bob, I don't believe there's as many people get polio from that. It's a polio symptom, but I don't think anybody's been crippled with it. I don't know for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Peter, I lost you. Something happened to my computer. Yes, there have been some cases where there is paralysis, but it's not as severe. I understand. It's a long time since I was in Pakistan. I'm getting old in the tooth to be there anymore. But occasionally they would have some minor paralysis, particularly of an upper arm. However, as they did with live virus, with the wild virus, get a pretty good recovery. It is not as severe, but nevertheless, it's polio, and these
That's
kids
right.
get polio.
And let me say that in Afghanistan, there's about 760,000 children that are being missed right now too. Even though Afghanistan is letting us do door to door and mosque to mosque in most places, but they still got some children that are not being reached. So we've got to find a way to reach those children too.
Every last child.
Well, thank you for those questions. I'm sure there will be more questions that will pop up. Let's go back to Ingrid for a little bit of summary and closing so we can keep within our hour. Ingrid?
Thank you, Neil. Wow, what an informative and inspiring session. I think this just confirms that we need to re-energize, and I love what Brenda said, refresh our energy and our donations to polio to end this once and for all. Special thanks certainly to John and to Brenda for your very informative and inspiring information, not only up to date, but I also enjoyed the personal stories. Thank you for that. I want to say a special thank you to our End Polio Now coordinators for planning and organizing and helping to host this meeting. Liz Yates is behind the scenes, so special congratulations and thanks to Liz for her help tonight. Our foundation team members, the Assistant Rotary Foundation coordinators are on this call, and remember that they are there to assist our districts in any way that you would like to have information or support for any of these foundation projects. And of course, special thanks to the governor teams and the district foundation chairs and district leaders who are on this call. I just want to say that as the foundation team for Zone 28, we have many goals, but one of them is to have every single district establish a Polio Plus Society this year. And for those of you who already have them, I see that 50/40 is up 12%. Well, let's just increase them and double them. And one other thing that I found was very, very surprising to me is that E-Ray, every Rotarian every year, we have less than 50% in our zone. I'd like us to double that as well. And perhaps those $25 could go into polio in the month of October for World Polio Day. So on that note, let's re-energize our focus on polio because each one of us will be a part of crossing that final finish line. Thank you all and good evening.